This week on The Mother of It All, we're hearing from parents of trans kids during an incredibly scary and, as our guest today says, galvanizing time. Even since we recorded this episode, President Trump has signed 2 executive orders that aim to restrict access to gender-affirming care for trans youth and to punish teachers and schools for supporting trans students. On this episode, we talk with parent and advocate Marlo Mack and her friend Kay, a parent and advocate living in Texas, about what they and their children are experiencing, how they are staying safe and sane, and how other parents can show up for them and their children. On Friday, we'll also share a free bonus episode where Nicole Grave Lipson will read her beautiful essay, As They Like It, Learning to Follow My Child's Lead, about her journey as a parent and understanding her child's gender identity. The essay was included in the latest Best American Essays collection, edited by Wesley Morris, and I cannot recommend enough the healing power of listening to someone read something beautiful out loud, especially in this stressful time. We've included additional resources in our show notes today about how to advocate for trans youth in schools and healthcare, and where to donate in support of trans youth right now. If you have other resources to share, please reach out to us on Instagram at The Mother of It All or by email at motherculturepod@gmail.com. You can support our work by rating and reviewing us wherever you listen, or becoming a paid subscriber at motherofitall.substack.com, where for every paid subscription we pick up this week, we'll donate $10 to the Trans Youth Equality Foundation Emergency Fund. Thank you for listening and for thinking about the trans kids in our country and their families.
I hope we can get it together here. I hope we can protect our kids. We have some wonderful people fighting for us. So if you have a trans kid and you're listening to this, I don't want to add to your fear. I don't want to add to your pain. I'm galvanized. I'm getting involved in a way I never have before. And I see a lot of people doing that. So, our kids, we're going to keep fighting for these kids. I will never give up on my daughter.
I'm Miranda Rake.
And I'm Sarah Wheeler, and this is The Mother of It All, where we take on motherhood through the lens of culture and culture through the lens of motherhood.
Hello, Sarah.
Hi.
How are you doing? You have a new special someone in your life.
Yeah, I'm a cat lady now.
Welcome to the club.
We adopted Jerry/Midnight. We're transitioning away from Jerry.
Was Jerry the Humane Society name?
Yes. The ladies who volunteer at the Humane Society need something to do, so they
enjoy scrolling through our
reward.
Humane Society page of the cats available, and you can see they're having fun and running out of ideas. So it's recently there were some triplets that were bacon, lettuce, and tomato. And that. I was like, wow, someone was at the end of their shift.
Yeah, whoever writes the content for the Oakland Animal Services pet descriptions, it's basically like a dating app, and it was very creative. There were these 2 siblings that were Luna and Cosmos, and then there was a celestial themed description of them.
Oh wow!
Really leaning into the metaphor of you'll feel like a supernova when you snuggle them or whatever. And then we got there and we were like, these cats kind of suck. But Jerry/Midnight is excluding the cats of everybody listening, the best cat ever. Mm-hmm. And I just overnight went from someone who was like, how could people spend money on medical treatment for a pet?
Now you're to $7,000, absolutely.
Oh my God.
It.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know if these 4 scratch pads are enough for him. We gotta get another one with Sisal. I'm completely obsessed. And it's also such an interesting parenting moment. Like a lot of things in parenting, when you you have a transition or you do something, even a vacation, where it's both making everybody better and making everybody worse.
Well, that leads
and that's
to
just
my
life.
question for you, which is that we're gearing up for a vacation, and it
Yeah.
will be the longest flight that we've done with 2 kids. So roughly 6 hours, 2 kids.
Okay. Clocking in at 3 and 6.
3 and a
ages?
half and 7.
So, okay.
Three and a half and freshly 7. So if you have, this is maybe concerning, but like, I'm not very worried about it. And is that delusional, or do you think, so I've got activity books that they like. We've got Yoto minis and lots of cards. I've got headphones for each kid. I'm going to pack snacks.
Yeah. When's the last time you flew like at all with either of them?
We went to Disneyland a year and a half ago.
You
and
did
it's like
an
a
hour
2-hour
flight.
flight. It's 2 hours from Portland.
So Nellie has fully transitioned, my understanding of your family, to a kid who enjoys screens.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if the screens are working and you don't have any problem being on screens, the miracle is that it will almost entirely be completely fine.
Just sit. We're gonna bring, but they have to share an iPad. Like, they don't have tablets at home, but we have one iPad that we are gonna load up with some shows that they like.
What airline are you flying?
Alaska.
Okay, so Alaska, I think should have screens.
Detailed.
You need
on the what?
Oh yeah, so you need to research what plane it is. This is what I would recommend.
What?
You can also just like let things ride and let life take you where your children are and make them resilient and all that shit.
I only aspire to that. That's not who I actually am.
If you want to have a nice flight and like save that for moments of, generosity when you're not like about to go sleep in a hotel room with your kids for a week or whatever.
Yeah.
I would recommend figuring out what kind of plane it is and whether it has seat back screens or you need to bring your own screens.
I remember that going to LA for Disneyland, the beverage service was a great
beverage
10,
service
15-minute time killer. You just watch it coming. You talk about what you're gonna get.
Right.
And
then, you have these loose drinks afoot in a row. That always.
That's true.
But I think that the screens will kind of do it, and then you need snacks, and then what's going to be hard is the transitions, maybe. So then you have to plan for. I have one kid who I can kind of power down their screen and even watch the descent and get excited about the transition, and I have another who's really overwhelmed by it, and we would make him get off the screen and be ready to get off. But what happened was then he was just getting so anxious with no air coming in while we were on the tarmac and everyone was taking forever to get out.
That is a hard moment.
Yeah. So we discovered we just had to take it to the last minute, rip off the Band-Aid, now we're going. And then he could get off the plane. And you shove food in them.
Well, what we bought, we were at the store and I was buying a few things, and I bought myself a little pack of gum for takeoff and landing.
Yeah.
And Griffin was like, "What's that for?" And I was like, "Oh, would you like your own?" And I was like, "You chew this when you take off and you chew it when you land." And so I'm hoping that the landing part will be "Oh, we're going to put everything away and now it's time for gum." You know?
And it's a transitional object. It's it makes the transition a thing and have this nice thing. I love that. That's beautiful.
Amazing.
We do airport treats. So everybody gets to go to Hudson News
and get gummies
one,
or whatever.
It can even be the giant thing of gummies. And so but then that makes them a little crazy. You got to shove some protein in their mouth while they're zombied out. But I feel really good about this for you.
Okay, I'll report back. I'll let you know. Let's get into the meat of our episode. So today we are very excited to have Marlo Mack with us. You may know Marlo from her podcast, How to Be a Girl, which has been a Peabody Award finalist. She's been making it since 2014, so she's much more experienced than us. On the podcast, she explores the experience of raising a transgender daughter in the U.S. today. The podcast is intimate and tender, and many of the first few years of episodes feature her daughter's voice, too. And it's a very lovely listen.
Mm-hmm.
Through the podcast, Marlo has connected with a wide network of families who are raising transgender kids too. She's explored her own experience, as well as included reporting on issues that families with transgender kids have been impacted by, like bathroom bills and lack of access to gender-affirming care. She is with us today to talk about what families with transgender kids expect to be dealing with under Trump's second term, and how those of us with trans kids in our lives and hearts can be more active allies in an increasingly unsafe landscape. Welcome, Marlo.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being with us. And you've brought someone with you who we will call Kay, which is a pseudonym. Kay is from Central Texas and has 2 daughters, the youngest of whom happens to be trans. Kay has spent 5 years advocating at the Texas legislature to fight for the rights of her daughter and her peers, as well as trans adults. Kay grew up in the Deep South in a conservative evangelical family and has also spent a lot of time advocating for trans people with her family and friends back home. Welcome, Kay, and thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
We are so glad you're here. So we always begin by asking who is caring for your kids today. And today it's MLK Day. It's a day off from school. So yeah, where are your kids today?
Well, my daughter's 17, so she is being taken care of probably by a favorite YouTube channel or exchanging memes on Discord with her friends. Yeah, until I finish talking with you guys and I try and get her outside. Or kick her out the door to
I've
do
heard
something.
of this self-directed.
Wow.
Maybe
Something
she's
to
doing
look forward
homework,
to.
but I'm not holding my breath.
It could be. You never
Yeah.
know. What about you, Kay?
So my older daughter's 16, and she, for 5 years, has been saving up to convert a van to live in after graduation. We just bought it last weekend, so she's working on her van today, which is really
Whoa.
exciting.
Oh,
Wow.
And then my youngest is 10, and she's in her room probably playing Roblox because that's her life.
Nice.
awesome.
You said your younger, I think it was your younger daughter had a parade at school for MLK Day?
Yeah, so at our elementary school, we spend every MLK Day participating in the Austin MLK March, and there's a big festival. Well, it got canceled this year because of cold weather. So we spent the morning at her elementary school doing like a big community art project led by some Black artists from Austin and watching a film and just being together in community. It was a really, really nice way to spend the day.
That sounds so lovely.
That's the parenting book I want to read, is like how to raise a child who will grow up to be a teenager who saves their money and has the vision and also like technical skills to renovate a used van to like pursue their dreams in.
Yes.
And other stories.
Yes, I tell people that she adults better than I do, and basically I'm just trying to not fuck her up.
Yeah. Yeah, see, that parenting advice I appreciate. It's always like, just get out of their way. And you're like, yeah, if your kid's cool,
Yeah,
that works really great. But if you have a shitty one, you know, you're going to have to get in their way a little bit. And it's very exhausting, let me tell you. They're all precious.
Well, so thank you both so much for being with us. I wanted to start, I was looking at journalist Erin Reed's Trans Youth Safety Map, which is on the Substack Erin in the Morning, and we'll link it. And it helped drive home to me the dangers that transgender kids face in our country today, as did listening to Marlo's podcast and the conversations that we had leading up to this call today. Marlo, you told me over the phone that your community faces an existential threat in this moment. Can you tell me more about what it feels like to be raising transgender kids in America right now? And Kay, you're welcome to answer as well.
So I'm in this dark blue corner of the country near Seattle, in Washington State, and even here, it's terrifying. After the election, life really shifted for me from thinking, we're pretty okay here, to feeling just very much not okay. like 100 times less safe. Um, or my kid being 100 times less safe, which, as you know, as parents, as moms, that's everything. It's worse than not being safe yourself, right? If your kid's in danger.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just watching the way that people like my daughter were scapegoated um, in the in the campaigning, Super Bowl ads basically making out my daughter to be something scary and threatening. Um, seeing seeing your child targeted, um, it's hard to explain how unsettling it is, and um, to just know that half the country thinks it's like a good idea to get rid of your kid. That we don't want you. We don't want families like yours. That's how it feels. That's how it lands on me. Even here, where I feel so much support from my immediate community. Um, and we're not talking about, it's not theoretical. We're talking about a stated intention by the current administration as of today to remove transgender people from daily life. If you can't use the bathroom, if you can't get medications that are vital to your survival, if you can't get accurate documents to drive a car, board an airplane, attend school, or get a job, you cannot live here. So we're essentially talking about removing transgender people from our communities, from our country. And so we absolutely don't feel safe, even though we're out here on the blue West Coast. Um, the conversations in the weeks after the election with all my buddies with trans kids were, where's your place? What's your country? Where are you thinking about? I have friends who've left for Canada, for Spain, for Portugal, or who are trying to get there.
Wow.
And my feeling is, will those places stay safe? The world's a scary, scary place right now for us.
Yeah.
I hope my friends who left are wrong. I hope we can get it together here. I hope we can protect our kids. We have some wonderful people fighting for us. So if you have a trans kid and you're listening to this, I don't want to add to your fear. I don't want to add to your pain. Like I'm galvanized. Like I'm getting involved in a way I never have before. And I see a lot of people doing that. So, our kids, we're going to keep fighting for these kids. I will never give up on my daughter. So yeah, Kay, I'd love to hear if you want to take it over from here.
Yeah. I just so appreciate like you setting that tone because while we started out with laughter and joy, which I'm trying to like lean more into and find these days, like the reality is that every day feels like there's a heaviness, there's an undercurrent of anxiety in my day to day. And there has been since my daughter, like since we realized she's trans. And it's only gotten worse. It started in Texas with just a bathroom ban years ago that actually failed. And I think in 2017, I heard that there was something like 7 anti-LGBTQ bills. And then in 2019, we have legislative sessions that are every 2 years in Texas. 2019, it was something like 19 bills. And then by 2021, it had ramped up to 76 anti-LGBTQ bills. And last session, it was 141. And the reality is, like, when you really peel back the layers, and Aaron Reed does a really good job of this, and also investigative journalists that work in Texas do, is that this is funded by a specific group of people who've recognized that it's not enough anymore to go after same-sex marriage because so many, even conservative people, have gay people in their family that they love and accept. And then it's not enough even anymore to even go after trans adults using the bathroom, which we've seen those bills fail in different places across the country. They've recognized that going after trans kids, there's not enough people who know trans kids because we're such a small community that they can attack them and spread a lot of misinformation that riles up people to show up with hatred and vitriol for them. I have gone to the Capitol. I've had people scream the most horrible things in my face, calling me a child abuser. It's very hard, just like functioning day to day. It's very hard here in Texas, and it's very, very lonely. I've watched family after family move away, and a lot of people say to me, well, when are you guys leaving? Like, why don't you just move? Like, upending your life and moving somewhere is like the easiest solution. And I get really frustrated because I feel that if more people who didn't have trans kids would just show up and fight for us, maybe this wouldn't be happening. But, this has been a targeted attack because they know there's so few of us. And so as my trans friend Remington says, like, we can use our little megaphones and scream from our little megaphones, but they have really big megaphones. And that's what we're fighting.
Thank you both for sharing that. I sort of along the similar lines, listening to Marlo's podcast, really recently, last October, you released a 2-part episode called Unwelcome, featuring a mom from Montana who had recently relocated to Seattle, or Seattle area where you are, and, uprooted their whole life. You explore leaving behind very beloved grandparents.
Yeah, it really makes you think about, like, I was just reading a book about 1938 Czech Republic. Like, it really makes you think about preparing for a war. These decisions people are making about whether or not they're safe where they are, and then what you have to risk and sacrifice to leave. And like you said, Marlo, like, is anywhere safe? So
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
that's
and
just a lot.
as I listened to that episode, or those 2 episodes, I was thinking a lot about how feeling more unsafe, and maybe a little bit like what Kay was speaking to about the isolation of feeling unsafe and feeling like you have to hide, or hide your child, and how that impacts your ability to grow your community. And
Well, I think that my perspective on that, even being in Texas, is a bit unique because I am in Central Texas, and Austin has a really large queer trans community, like probably the biggest in the state. Maybe Houston is bigger. The community here is very tight knit. I think that one of the things I've heard from some families that have moved is how when you move to a really progressive state or progressive area in a blue state, sometimes it can be challenging to find community because here in Texas we've had to really band together. It's almost like we've been made stronger through fighting like a war in a way. If that makes sense, rather than living in a really safe place where you don't need to come together to fight because you have what you need. It's like your baseline is of like support and equality is okay, right? So I do feel like I'm in a bit of a bubble. Our elementary school, for instance, has been so amazingly supportive of my daughter. And even in our area, that is not necessarily the case, but I'm like in a bubble in a very red state. So for me, I have community. And that's one thing I've thought about is like how if we move to another state, I have to go rebuild that. And why should I have to do that,
and that's no small thing. I mean, that's a huge thing.
It's feeling more and more fragmented though as people leave. Like and I'm beginning to feel like an elder, and I do not consider myself one. So I've been finding myself leaning more on my trans adult friends, which I'm so grateful to have.
Yeah.
And like, my God, I don't want to put more stress on them because they're like living this every day. I'm not. I'm a cishet woman, So
yeah.
How are your children experiencing this all? Kay, you have a younger child, and Marlo, you have a teenager who's trans, um, are they kind of where you are internalizing this and having kind of similar hopes and fears, or do they seem in a different place with their own community and experience?
I think I'll just mention that I've been really limiting what I've been sharing with my daughter because she's only in 5th grade.
Yeah.
Um, she sees a psychologist, and we've talked about starting to tell her about the real horrors of the world because she's headed to middle school next year and things will get more real. But for now, I've just been keeping her very sheltered so that she can have that self-confidence and not have the anxiety.
Does she have a phone or like social media?
She has an iPad.
Yeah.
She has limited access. Like I let her watch some YouTube, which is great because she's actually like watching a lot of makeup videos of like drag queens and trans women who do amazing makeup,
Yeah, there's good content out there.
Good content, like that's good for her to see. So, but I really try to keep an eye on it because, it's pervasive now, the hate.
Again, it's just like that compounding of like, we're all watching our kids on social media, we're all worried about what they'll be exposed to. We're all thinking about the horrors of the world. We just did an episode on climate change and kind of the fact that what our kids need to know, and what they don't. And it's just a constant struggle. But again, the stakes of this version of that sound so much higher. What about your teenager, Marlo? I assume you can't keep her from the internet.
Yeah, no, she is more about the much of the world than I do. Keeps me up to date. Yeah, I mean, this is something I've been navigating since she was little. How do I walk that line of giving her enough information to keep her safe without scaring her, without making her an anxious wreck? And I see a lot of trans kids, even here, where they're really in pretty supportive communities and schools and families, living with a huge amount of anxiety. And apparently, all the indicators are that in the show that after the election, calls to, helplines for trans kids went through the roof. So these kids are in a world of fear. My kiddo, I can't say a lot about her because she really has asked for a lot of privacy, but I can say that I think I try and let her, well, I do try and let her take the lead on that. And so far, her leaning has been to distance herself, I think, from from taking in too much of that information. She knows it's there. She knows generally what's going on. But we kind of have an understanding that I'm not going to keep that onto her plate. So I really have a line between all my activism and all the stuff I'm trying to do, sharing other people's stories and letting her, as much as she can, just be a regular teenager. I just want her to think about her friends and, her hobbies and her schoolwork and look forward to college. And, she just should not have to have the weight of the world on her shoulders. She doesn't need to be the poster child for this. And there's other kids that are more interested in taking that on, which is we really need those examples and those stories. But one thing that's really hard right now is that we're all so, I mean, in the weeks after the election, I wanted to do some writing, get my voice out there, and speak up. And I was told by a lot of people, just you need to be quiet. Now's not a time for telling our stories.
And just take care of your family and yourself.
Utterly chilling.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about the references to the 1930s, like,
yes.
And that was my experience with the family that I have become close to from Montana, who they were dying to speak out against the ban on gender affirming care in their state legislature, but not a single family of young kids felt safe enough to come forward at the hearings and speak out for our kids. And think about that, So we are here, but we are terrified and we're being silenced because we're being told we're coming for you, we're coming for your kids, you're a child abuser.
Yeah.
So there's a very good reason Kay and I are using pseudonyms here today.
Yeah.
We are we have to be very careful. And it's a calculated risk talking to you today, frankly, even with a pseudonym.
I wonder if you, Kay, or Marlo have thoughts about, what we can do to protect trans kids and to support other parents of trans kids in our own communities, as well as beyond, across the country. Is there something that, you would like to see more people doing? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I mean, there is definitely a role for, in a desperate need for people to speak out in support of us. I cannot go to the Capitol and tell my story because I can't guarantee that keeps my daughter safe, and she doesn't. I can't out her. That's not something she's comfortable with. So we desperately need in every state. We have anti-trans bills here in Washington State. They're probably not going anywhere, but if we're quiet, they might. We cannot take it for granted that we're going to sit pretty here and nothing's going to happen. So, yeah, we need support. Like as Kay was saying, we need more people to pick up their megaphone and show up. Um, the right wing is bussing in supporters a lot from, last time we had a bathroom bill come forward and years ago in Washington State, I was at the Capitol and there were busloads of people from conservative churches who come to, we thought we would be in the majority, but they swamped us in numbers. It was here in Washington State. It was really, really upsetting. And that's not going away. If anything, I think it's increasing. So we need people to come to the Capitol steps, even if you're in a blue state, and say, we support these parents who are trying to just let their kids have a chance at a good life.
Yeah.
Like any parent, any mother, all I want is my daughter just to have the ability to be her best self. And if you have any experience with these kids, that's all they're doing. Being trans is this footnote in her life. She's just, should say it's the least interesting thing about her. We don't talk about it day to day. We talk about her goals and her dreams and her drama with her friends and the stuff all your listeners are talking about with their teenagers. So yeah, just be there for us. And if you know someone with a trans kid, like say I'm here for you. Like be vocal in your support because when people are quiet, you don't know. Like maybe they're with us. I don't know. I've had so many conversations with parents where I think they're cool with us, but gosh, be explicit. Be like, I support you. Like, good job. I'm with you. I love hearing that. I never get tired of hearing that. Put a flag up in your yard if you can. If my daughter doesn't want, we're pretty quiet, so I can't put up a trans pride flag. But gosh, if you can, do it. Because I'll walk by your house and I'll be like, hey, they love us. We're safe there. They'd let us in, they'd be there for us in the bad times. So
that's something that's interesting. Sometimes I think I get in my head about like slacktivism or like virtue signaling, and I'm like, oh, is this weird if I do this?
not to me, it's not. I don't know how other
But that's
people feel,
wonderful
but
to
if you
hear.
had a trans pride
Now I'm with
flag
you.
at your house, I would just be like, yeah, we're safe.
Good. Okay, I'm gonna do it. Okay, yeah. What do you think about what you wish other parents would do to support, your family?
One of the things I kept hearing from people, from friends even, about like how they felt about this is that they felt like they didn't understand enough about trans youth healthcare to like they were afraid that if they spoke up, people are going to ask questions and then they can't explain it, right? And so the thing that I've been telling everyone is you don't have to be an expert. I'm not an expert on any of this, right? Like I'm an expert on knowing my kid, but like you know me and you can show up and say, I have a really good friend. She's an amazing mother. and she has a trans kid, and like I support her, and she should be allowed to make those decisions for her child because she knows what's best, and she's done a lot of homework, and she's talked to a lot of doctors and people. That is like all we really need, you know?
Yeah.
You don't have to be an expert, because it can feel very overwhelming, to feel like you need to know all the things about what's happening about any of the debates right now. And the other thing I wanted to add is that in Texas, we've actually had some strategy around this, which I feel like has been really helpful. Unfortunately, we have an Attorney General, Ken Paxton, who, so no law got passed to make this like a law. He just took it upon himself to tell the Department of Child Protective Services to go after us because he deems us child abusers. And so we had hearings at their board meetings, and parents of trans kids wrote letters. And those letters were submitted to Our Equality, Org Equality Texas, and TENT, Transgender Education Network of Texas. And allies showed up, and they would just be given a letter, and they would stand at the front and say, I'm going to read a letter written by a parent of a trans kid that was a trans girl at this age. And they would read the letter. And,
Wow.
you know, people are crying. This is like powerful. This is like a way to show up, like take a day off work or a half day, you know, take on some of the inconvenience that we're having to go through. I had days where I was like I literally testified at like 4:00 in the morning one time when we had a testimony that went super late, and then like had to get up and go to work the next morning. Like taking on some of the inconvenience and stress that we're having to go through is huge. And also it's not just me and Marlo, but like these attacks are starting to bleed into impacting trans adults. So you're talking about people that are our age, right? Like you should have your own bodily autonomy. Like I'm 45 years old, like there's no question there. And like these people are having to fight for themselves. And I've been in rooms where they're advocating for my child that they've never met, while another person who's hateful says the most horrible things about them, like in their testimony while they're in the room. And these people, like, it's like, that's what keeps me going too, is like, if they can show up for my child they've never met, I'm going to keep showing up for them and my kid, because that is the work, you know? But it is really hard. It's hard, doesn't even summarize it. It's like debilitating at times.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, another way I think to ask what I was asking is like, what can we take off your plate, you know, as allies and people who care and have a different vision for this country than the one that we are being presented with today. And so these are wonderful answers.
I'm also I wanted to note, and I don't know if you know, tell me if this is meaningful in your community, but that March 31st is the National Trans Day of Visibility. And there are events all over the country. And so I wonder if that's an opportunity, you know, particularly this year, for people to get involved if they never have been before.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
Be wonderful. The more there people who can show up there, the better. Yeah. And also I want to say, you know, in just about every major, you know, population area, there are organizations that you can support. So, you know, Google your local organization that's helping trans folks. If you want to, you know, take real action that will absolutely impact somebody's life for the better right away.
We'll put a bunch of links in the show notes.
Thank you. Yeah.
So looking forward, both of you, this may be hard to answer, but you know, how do you hope or plan to keep your children safe? You know, are you thinking of moving, or is it day by day? What are you thinking about when you look to the future?
You're gonna move to Seattle and be with me, Kay?
I mean, that is definitely an option. It would be so great to know I have a friend there waiting on me.
Yeah. What's your, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, I'll take that. Um, so yes, looking forward. I think the reality is that, and I've learned, I just want to say that I've learned all this from the trans adults in my life, is that the courts are not going to save us. Laws are not going to save us. We have to save ourselves. So, and what that means, I think, is like community. We have to have community-based care. We have to have systems where we're checking on each other, where we are looking out for one another. And for me right now, that looks like the other parents I know in my area that I've connected with, but it also means like other parents throughout the country that I've known that have left, and new families I meet along the way. Like staying in connection and hearing needs that are happening and how and like figuring out how we can meet those needs. So I try to personally focus on making sure that my daughter knows how loved she is and how amazing she is, but also like how she's just a girl. And I think for her, that's kind of what this boils down to, is that she's just a girl. She doesn't understand really like why people don't understand or don't like her, right? Like she just wants to feel like, a girl like any other girl. So I try to focus on helping her build her self-confidence. And part of that includes introducing her to like trans adults, trans women I know who are amazing and talk about like resilient. Like these are some of the most like joyful, hilarious, creative, resilient people, women that I've ever met in my life. So I think like for me, it's like this work is going to be inward, focusing on my daughter, my family, but it's also outward and checking in on other people and knowing that maybe these bills are going to come, but like we're going to keep doing what we have to do. And we're going to keep using our voices in the safest ways possible.
Spoken like a mother. I don't know.
Yep.
I feel like I can feel your motherhood come through that, Kay. Just that combination of protection and resilience and like determination, right? That you're not going to give up on your child, but also like everybody who you feel like is in your care in some way.
Yeah. And who I lean on and learn beautiful. From,
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
Marlo, your daughter's older. How do you think about the future, keeping your daughter safe?
And living a happy, normal life, like like you've both been saying, that you just want to be.
I mean, I just, gosh, I get fierce when it comes to this. I mean, you understand that, right? When your child's in danger.
Yes.
So there's this tiger, or this whatever, or bear. I'm not sure what animal at the top of the food chain I'm becoming, but damn, I'm feeling her. And I have my plans in place, my worst case scenario plans for accessing healthcare. No one's going to stop me from protecting my child. And that's what fuels me in, doing the not so fun work of like organizing and heading to the Capitol and all this. It's just, we've got to be out there for our kids. And I just look at my beautiful daughter, and that's what keeps me going, really. I think Kay said it really well. Just focusing on helping them know how just perfect they are as they are, no matter what the rest of the world says, and reminding them of that every day. I'm just so lucky to be the parent of this kid. The last thing I need is anyone to feel sorry for me. I mean, she's just the best.
Yes.
And yeah, I don't know what's coming. I can't, it's hard to even think ahead, especially on this, at this moment in time. There's so many unknowns. I try not to think too much about that. I'm just one foot in front of the other. Like, we got to keep fighting. We got to keep fighting. We got to on so many topics, right? We're in uncharted waters, and of course, our community is not the only one who's under attack and scared.
Yes.
Um, so I suppose the silver lining is that we are connecting in a way we haven't in a long time.
Hmm.
It's what I'm seeing in my community here. I think maybe Kay's had an experience of being, under threat for longer. We've been a little bit sitting back. Some of us parents, at least myself, feeling a little bit like, oh, we're good, for the last 4 years. And so we're coming together. And my hope is that this just makes us stronger and that we're going to fight like hell for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
My daughter went to a birthday party of a friend recently, and who's trans, and her dad made these like amazing little gift bags, the kind of thing where like you're like, I like it was something to aspire to in parenting, and not in
Mhm.
like a Instagrammable way. It was just like he'd taken these paper bags and cut them to look like cat ears, and then he'd went to we have this like amazing recycled stuff store, and like found these cool little things that were recycled that of course the kids loved more than any like expensive, party bag thing. And one of the things in the bag was a sticker that said, I know a trans kid who is loved. And so now I'm going to put that sticker somewhere very visible. And I
Mm,
had a great conversation with my
wonderful.
daughter. She said, I know someone, a trans kid who is loved too. And I said, yeah. And she said, me. And I said, you are loved. And do you know what trans means? I think it, in our community, our little bubble, like there isn't even sometimes a need or we don't feel like, some of us, that there's a need for a word for it, because it's understood that like some girls have penises and some boys have vaginas, and like that's just. And um and so we talked about that, and she didn't know her friend was trans, and we talked about it, and now
Mm,
she's come, and we talked a little bit about how like it's important right now to show that love, and to care for and protect our trans friends, because the government, wants to persecute them. And so now yeah, she's been talking a lot about it.
And
But
she's
I
7?
do. She's 6.5.
6.5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But it's like I didn't give much thought to the sticker, Marlo and Kay, and now I'm like,
Mm.
that's
mhm.
a flag, like I want that somewhere where people can see. Maybe not. I mean, sure, some part of me probably, like you said, Miranda, like the virtue signaling is hard to let go of, but I see the authentic um communication that's there.
Well, the idea
Yeah.
that, and I totally know what you mean, Marlo, when the idea that you would see something and you feel safe, like I'm safe on this block or I'm safe in front of this house. Like um,
Yeah.
we have a swing in front of our house in a tree that it's an invitation. Like I want kids to
Mm.
swing in it, and like people will be in it. And if I come out of the house, sometimes parents will say like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Is this okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's what it's there for." Like I
Mm.
want to like chit chat with you. I like kids. I want to like chat with your kid. I want
Oh,
your kid to
we're
like,
gonna put a basketball hoop up like that today,
yeah.
actually. And
And
now I'm gonna
so,
put my trans
and
my
now
my I
Mm,
know
the
a trans
flag
kid who
is,
is love sticker on it.
yeah.
perfect. Perfect.
Right. So
Yeah.
the idea of another invitation, like to not to get so in my head about like, oh, is this, because I think in Portland too, we have this assumption like, well, obviously everyone feels this way.
Yeah. But
But
you're
like I
saying
put
that
up
is not true.
posters, I mentioned that I put up posters of for Gaza, and like a lot of them got ripped down, so like I have learned that even in my bubble, it's maybe not, I shouldn't make so many assumptions. Um,
There's also just, if I can throw in here,
yes,
Please.
please.
yeah, we never know, right, exactly until we've had a conversation with someone where they are, how much they understand about the issue. But there are so many young people. I just have to speak a little bit to the teenagers because there are so many young people who don't have supportive parents in all communities. Or the parents are busy and maybe just haven't kind of connected the dots yet. Or maybe the kid is has scared scared to tell their parents. So, you having something on your backpack that's a pride pin or trans flag, you you never know what little things can make someone stay or just give them that little extra sense of okayness to get through the day and um get where they need to go,
Hmm.
Um, there's so many trans teenagers who need our love. And however, I don't care about virtue signaling, like let's just love them.
Hmm.
And maybe
Hmm.
they'll roll their eyes if they're, like, oh my God, mom, this is Berkeley or this is Seattle. I don't need,
Mhm.
look at this lady thinking she's all, who cares?
Right.
Mhm.
Because what about that one kid who needs to see it?
Yeah.
So you're helping them and everyone else can just, take a hike. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
let's send the love out. That's how
I love that.
that's my take.
I love that. Thank you. I'm 40. I can stop being so self-conscious. It's time for me to grow up a little.
Almost nobody's reached out. Like I've heard from no media.
Oh my gosh. When I
Well,
reached
Um,
out, I was like, oh, they're probably
yeah.
slammed right
I
now.
mean,
Like
this is
everyone's
what
No,
you're talking about too,
it's
Marlo, is
silence.
like,
We're
you
not,
know,
we're like kryptonite. No one's calling me.
that's
jeez.
Yeah, there's
crazy.
one super left wing like public radio outfit, and then you guys. That's it.
We have some
Uh,
reporters in Texas that reach out, but we've all been told not to do any media for our safety right now.
oh my
Like, not
gosh.
even
That's so
anonymously.
confusing.
Yeah.
What
It's
and
so hard.
I mean, I've been told that here in Washington, but you guys doubly so.
Hmm.
yeah,
Y-
yeah.
Yeah, I think the real fear for us is Attorney General Ken Paxton. Like, he's been trying to get a list of transgender people. Like, he contacted DPS, our Department of Public Safety, a couple of years ago, asking for the names and contact info for all people who'd changed their gender markers on their driver's license for the past 3 years.
Oh, I saw this on Aaron. I think on Aaron in the
Wow.
morning.
Yeah, Aaron
Yes.
Reed has covered all of this, and it's been terrifying. And of course, they said they didn't provide it, but now he has stopped any changes of gender on driver's licenses, and he's been asking if anyone comes to request it that you take their paperwork and mail a copy of it to like some email address that's internal in their agency. Like, it's so Third Reich to me. Like,
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
That's
it's
terrifying.
terrifying.
That's
Literally
totally
It is.
terrifying.
So they're just like, for your safety, don't do media, which
Yeah.
for me, like, I don't hide from, like, the way that I cope is I have to fight, right? We all have our own way. So I'm just feeling like debilitated because it's like I can't even scream and speak up for my kid. I have to like hide, and I don't want to hide,
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
Mm.
Oh, my friend.
I'm so
ugh.
sorry. That's really a tough place to be in.
I say it and I feel like I sound crazy to people who are not paying attention. Do you know what I
Right,
mean?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
they,
I think
Yeah.
I've seen some of that about like the reproductive rights stuff is like,
yes.
especially again if you're I don't know how like you also have I imagine you have friends like Marlo in other places, and who may be less aware of stuff like this because it's not happening in their states.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
but this kind of like, I don't know, I have a lot of friends who like, when Roe was overturned was like, well, we'll be it's so awful. And like, I know I'll be safe, but like, and it's like, nah, do you like
Mm.
know, do you know what's happening? Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah, like the sports ban right now that's already passed the U.S. House is headed to the Senate, and AOC. I don't know if you saw her, but she was talking about like the very obvious piece, which is that there's no enforcement mechanism for determining who was born female or male at birth, besides checking in your pants, and so it's literally opening the door to pedophiles, like to check like athletes, like.
Yeah.
And I mean, why are these people, we call them in Texas, me and my friends call them genital hobbyists, because it's literally like, this is their hobby, is like worrying about what's between people's legs. I've had friends say like, well, why don't you just step back and not pay attention for a while? And I'm like, I can't do that.
Mhm.
You know what you're asking me to do? Like, not pay attention? Something big could happen that I need to be aware of. Like, that's a privilege you have to not pay attention for a few days,
Oh my God. Yeah. I remember that guy I read about in the New York Times a few years ago. He didn't, I think it was during the first Trump administration, and he had decided to withdraw from looking at all media. And he lived in he was some well-educated white guy in a rural place in the middle of the country. And he like asked people not to have newspapers near him. And I was like, what insane
Wow.
privilege. He didn't know that Trump had been
Yeah.
elected last time,
Of
right?
course, it was
Oh,
a white
wow.
man.
And
Yeah.
it's just like, you can't, yeah, that's great until they're coming for you, honey,
Hmm.
until they find a
Yeah.
category to put you in that they don't want to include in our community anymore. God,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think about that a lot when I hear people or hear myself talk about like kind of going on media breaks. And I mean it's like it's the microcosm of what we talk about with our kid. There is something real about, preserving your sanity and doing the caretaking of yourself and other people that you need to get through your day, right? So you
Yeah.
have to have some
Yes.
filters like your teenager is discovering too, right? That's
Right.
important. And it is like after this election, I felt like people being like, well, I'm just going to stay off news. It was like, I don't think we can do that. I don't think like even
Mhm.
if you feel okay with that, like I don't think that's like a responsible thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. People are so scared though. I mean, I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
I can't do it. I mean,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and we all take care of ourselves in different ways, right? Like me
right.
saying that I feel like my anxiety is less, so I'm able to take action. Like my husband, for instance, is the opposite. He's like, "What are you doing? Like you're putting us at risk." And I'm like, "I have to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can be here at the house and like hunker down and not like talk about this openly and be visible, but like I have to do this because it's the only way I'm feeling better."
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe
So
he
Yeah.
can use that charge recharging he's getting from not paying attention to the news to like do all the breakfast and lunch or something too.
exactly. He's doing
It's
like
like
There you
physical.
go. There you
Exactly.
go.
Mhm.
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
my
be the
husband's
one
my
that
support
like
staff
keeps
too.
us
Yeah.
safe and informed and advocating, and you be the one that
Yes.
like, what cleans the litter box.
Mm-hmm. We take care
Right,
Right.
of each
right. The power
other,
behind the
right?
throne.
The
Yes.
Yeah.
strength in numbers so that
Mhm.
we
Yeah, we
don't
all
have to
have
do it
different
alone.
roles to play, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes.
different
I think
times.
sharing the load is
Hmm.
the only way. Um, so we always end by asking for culture recommendations. So it can be books or movies or a show. It could be something you're enjoying with your kids. It could be something that you've enjoyed. If you have any and cultural recommendations, and it can be related to what we've talked about today, or it can just be something that's making you feel good.
Well, I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts, as all progressive middle-aged women, white women do. And sometimes I'm like, why do I do this to myself? And then I realize it's because maybe it's the only thing worse than dealing with what I'm currently dealing with.
Yeah, right. Oh god.
That's my escapism. Also,
What's your
like
favorite?
I'm never gonna get abducted. I'm telling you. Like I'm gonna survive anything. And like I'm
You
so
heard.
hyper vigilant.
Don't fuck with Kay.
Yeah.
What's your favorite, Kay?
So I love Morbid, the podcast Morbid, and then also
Mm.
Two Girls, One Ghost is my other one.
I like a cozy mystery. I do read a lot. I've talked about this before. Like very low stakes, very like it's mostly atmosphere, and then maybe there's like a little, little murder, but probably the person is fine.
Lowercase
They're
m,
just hiding or
off
something.
screen.
Yeah. Just
There are
great.
so many beautiful books written by transgender authors and really great books about, nonfiction and fiction. And yeah, so I'd highly recommend, looking in your local library, searching for those books. But for me, that's been a really powerful way to understand my daughter because
Hmm.
I'm not trans. I don't understand what it's like to be in her head. But reading memoirs and novels by transgender women, some that come to mind are Janet Mock, Julia Serrano, amazing author, Jennifer Finney Boylan, um, Jan Morris. If you like to read memoir, they're beautiful books, and it gives you a sense of what the pioneers in this world who've walked ahead of 20 years, 30 years, 40 years ago have paved this path. And um, it's about as close, I think, as you can get to like being in their shoes. And kind of going, yeah, okay, these are my sisters, I want to stand with them. And then for my, I'm not a true crime person, but I'm a cozy murder lady. So I'm curling up with my Brit box.
We just invented a new genre.
My absolute favorite is
BritBox.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you about it later.
BritBox. It's how you stream all the BBC cozy murders.
BBC.
Yeah.
Yes.
My mom and like all the funny, all the Brit coms.
Oh, there's so much good stuff there. My husband is from England, so yeah, he translates for me when I can't understand what they're saying.
I know sometimes we do turn on subtitles, and I'm like,
yeah, right.
So what do you love on BritBox?
My favorite is Vera. She's a badass lady getting on in years, and she always gets the bad guys.
My mom is listening. I 100% know that, and so hi, Mom. Vera, she loves
Vera. I love Vera.
She loves Vera.
Vera always gets the bad guys, and she takes no shit from anyone. So if you want to be inspired that we can keep fighting as women as we get older, watch Vera.
Yes, I love that.
All right, I'm sold.
I love that.
I love it. I have such a vivid memory of when I was growing up. My mom has always loved all these mysteries, and I remember so vividly when Prime Suspect was rolling in the 90s with the Helen Mirren, and my mom and all of her friends were like, Prime Suspect. And I remember my mom using the phrase tough cookie, like about and it was like, that's like a good
what a tough cookie.
I gotta be a tough cookie. Yeah. Anyway. Well, thank you both so much. It was wonderful to talk to you today.
Thank you.
You are two tough cookies.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for talking about this and being willing to hear us out and learn and be with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We are with you.
Thank you for sharing our stories. Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Take care.
Thanks for listening to The Mother of It All. And like my mom always said, you're safe here. The Mother of It All is produced by Opus Knox Media with music from It's Electric. If you liked this episode, why not send it to a friend right now? Go on, we'll wait. You can follow us on Substack at themotherofitall.substack.com, where subscribing will get you episodes and bonus posts in your inbox and connect you with the Mother of It All listener community. Plus, become a paid subscriber and get a hot off the presses Mother of It All canvas tote. We're also on Instagram at The Mother of It All, and you can email us anytime with ideas or feedback at motherculturepod@gmail.com.